Alright, Cheyenne, so it looks like this one said x squared plus x minus 6 is all greater than 0. And you started to solve it by factoring out an x minus 2 times an x plus 3. And so if this were an equation, if it were x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0, then that would be perfect because we could just factor out an x minus 2 times an x plus 3 equals 0. And then how would we get 0? Well, if x equals 2 or if x equals negative 3. If x equaled either of those numbers, then we would get 0, and that would solve for that equation. The only problem here is that this is an inequality up here. So it's x squared plus x minus 6 is greater than 0. So let's go ahead and rewrite this as x squared plus x minus 6 is all greater than 0. And I want to get all of our x's on one side, so I'm going to add a 6 to both sides. And that's going to give us x squared plus x is all greater than 6. So what number for x will solve for this inequality? Well, let's just test something out. Let's try the number 2. What if it were 2 squared plus 2 is greater than 6? Is that a true thing? 2 squared plus 2 is exactly 6. So this would actually not be a correct thing. But what we should notice from this is that 2 is right at the limit. If we go any larger than 2, we should satisfy the inequality. So for example, if I took something just barely bigger than 2, 2.01 squared plus 2, will that satisfy the inequality? 2.01 squared is 4.04 plus another 2.1. And that's going to give us just barely 6.05. That is going to give us just barely over 6, and so that will satisfy the inequality. So if x is larger than 2, that satisfies the inequality. So we'll see if we're finished here. We're not quite finished because we see that there's an x squared up here. So, for example, what if we were to test something else out? Let's keep what we know, which is that if x is bigger than 2, it satisfies the inequality. But what if we tested something else out? What if we tested out a negative 3, for example? So that would be negative 3 squared plus a negative 3 is greater than 6. And is that a true thing? Negative 3 squared is 9. 9 plus negative 3 is 9 minus 3. And that equals 6. So that one's not quite correct either. But this one also shows us that 3 is right at the limit. So if we go any smaller than 3, for example, negative 3.01, and plug that in for x. Negative 3.01 squared gives us a positive 9.06. And then we add a negative 3.01. And 9.06 plus a negative 3.01 is just 9.06 minus 3.01, which gives us 6.05. And 6.05 is greater than 6. So anytime we go smaller than 3, anytime x is smaller than 3 at all, it also satisfies the inequality. So when x is smaller than 3, and when x is larger than 2, it satisfies the inequality.